So a Freedom of Information Act request that became public yesterday, where somebody out there wanted Anthony Fauci's emails, the emails became public, and there are 5 or 6 stunners in there in the Fauci emails, which we're going to go through one by one to show you again about the tyranny of experts. Not piling on Fauci. I'm just saying this is a man whose words, ideas, advice to President Trump at the time and now President Obama has destroyed a lot of lives. And we deserve some accountability. Couple of things, couple of lowlights from the Fauci emails. He appears to have been aware very early on about the lab leak theory. He was warned that China was potentially lying about the lab leak and other things. He questioned the efficacy of masks. Had discussions about gain-of-function research. Also had some dealings with Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook, who apparently offered some help. But there's an interesting redaction. Oh, that's the last email we'll get to. I'm not trying to tease it unnecessarily. But there's a fascinating redaction in the Zuckerberg-Fauci email. And the reason for the redaction is just incredible. Increíble. Let's get right to email number 1 here. Here's Dr. Fauci on masks. Fascinating here. I do not recommend you wear a mask, particularly since you are going to be in a very low-risk location. Your instincts are correct. Money is best spent on medical countermeasures such as diagnostics and vaccines. He also admits that the typical drugstore mask is, quote, not really effective in keeping out virus, which is small enough to pass through the material. Folks, again, to be fair and not do hysterical radio podcasting for the sake of hysteria, some of this stuff was kind of hinted at or implied by Fauci early. But what's fascinating here is he admits in the email something I think he kind of danced around in his public presentation on the efficacy of masks, that they were, quote, largely ineffective at keeping the virus out. Now, folks, given the fact that there's a risk analysis to be done by actual smart people, not dopey smart people, why were we recommending masks for people who weren't infected if they're acknowledging in the email that the masks are largely ineffective for keeping the virus out? Understanding that we covered the town hall article last week on the show, in case you missed it, about the efficacy of masks and the latest research from the University of Louisville, where they covered in there that there is a risk to masks. The risk is high from bacteria, There's a risk from bacterial infection because of the breakdowns and barriers in the mouth because of dehydration. So now that we know that wearing a mask does carry risk, I understand YouTube and Facebook are probably going to ban this episode because University of Louisville research is not good enough for them. I understand Fauci's emails are meant to be banned. I mean, Facebook appears to have been working with Fauci from the start. I get that. But in the strange event that the communists at YouTube and Facebook actually let this stuff proceed, we're going to do actual science here, and I want you to hear about it. From the start, it appears Fauci was well aware that the efficacy of masks was low, and now we know from research that there is a risk, granted, not a high risk, but a risk from prolonged mask wearing over 4 hours. Again, YouTube, Facebook, I know that's research. I know you're not comfortable with that stuff, but it's worth putting out there that they were not honest about this from the start. They pretended wearing a mask all day was a almost no risk activity while simultaneously playing down the fact that the masks were largely ineffective in keeping virus particles out. Their words, ladies and gentlemen, not mine. Their words. So Fauci clearly not telling you the whole story on masks. Fauci-Gate. And, listen, before I go on to email number 2, the reason I'm angry about this, again, it's not to pile on Fauci. The reason I'm angry about this is the advice of people like Fauci destroyed millions of lives and businesses, has led to an environmental disaster, masks all over the place, which we have very little evidence now stem the tide of this virus. And we were told this stuff as if it was coming from experts and was authoritative truth. And now we know the entire time they knew otherwise, that the truth was more nuanced. Here's the second Fauci-Gate email. Here's Fauci on the origins of COVID. This is fascinating. This is from Christian G. Anderson to Fauci, CC to Jeremy Farrar. This Christian Anderson says, hey, Tony, starts talking about the characteristics of the COVID-19 virus from Wuhan, China. And he says, here's the line. He highlighted it for us. He says to see that some of the features potentially look engineered to the virus. So keep this up. Wait, what? I thought we were told from the start, or at least it was heavily implied, that this thing definitely came from bat soup or a pangolin, most definitely. And if you said otherwise, I'll show a headline at the end of the show. You are definitely a conspiracy theorist. That's interesting because the date of this is January of 2020, folks. January of 2020. Here, it goes on. Christian Anderson to Fauci. I should mention that after discussions earlier today, he mentions a few names, and myself, he says we all find that the genome is inconsistent with expectations from evolutionary theory. Again, indicating that this may not have had a natural human, animal to human transmission, and it may not have evolved naturally. Listen, liberals, I know you're having a tough time reading these things because, again, as Guy said this morning, you have adamantium-coated skulls to facts. But in January of 2020, Fauci gets an email from someone clearly questioning, has his email, so I'm assuming he knows him, assuming this is some kind of an expert, is telling him that this may not have evolved naturally. This may have been engineered. How are we hearing about this for the first time in the last few weeks? Again, the tyranny of experts, folks. I can't warn you against this strongly enough. I am not suggesting experts are useless. If it wasn't for experts, you'd never have your car repaired, right? Mechanics are experts in car repair. I'm not. I can change my oil. That's about it. I have no idea how to change the computer chip in my car. I could probably figure it out. Why? We have experts for that. There is a role for experts who know their limitations. But experts can turn tyrannical when they take their, quote, expertise and extrapolate it to larger issues they're unaware of at the time. Mask mandates, businesses being shut down, the origins of COVID. And it becomes tyrannical because their fallback is not evidence. Their fallback isn't we should wear masks because of this evidence, or COVID definitely came from nature because of this evidence. Their fallback is their expertise. It's circular reasoning. I'm an expert. I'm telling you something I'm unaware of. And because I'm unaware of it, I'm going to tell you I'm an expert. And therefore, you should believe it. You see the circle? It's the circle of stupid, smart people. You may say, gosh, Fauci-Gate, that one and two, masks and the origin of COVID, that's bad enough. Shockingly, it gets worse. Here's an email, Fauci on Fauci's email about possible gain-of-function research. Pay close attention to this name. Probably getting his name wrong, but Hugh Auchincloss. Pay very close attention to this. This is Fauci emailing Hugh Auchincloss from the National Institutes of Health. Fauci says, okay, stay tuned. Okay, stay tuned to what? Well, he's responding to an email Auchincloss sent to him. Auchincloss says, hey, the paper you sent me says the experiments were performed before the gain-of-function pause, quote, but have since been reviewed and approved by NIH. Not sure what that means, since Emily is sure that no coronavirus work has gone through the P3 framework. She will try to determine if we have any distant ties to this work abroad. Where is Hugh Auchincloss right now? Because Hugh Auchincloss at the NIH is on this Fauci email exchange and is clearly perturbed by the fact that we may have had a role in financing gain-of-function research that may have engineered the coronavirus from the Wuhan lab in China. You understand why this is a little bit infuriating, folks? How we've been lied to by the consortium, the evil symbiote now? It's become an evil symbiote of misinformation and disinformation. The symbiote of Facebook, social media companies, ScrewTube, government experts, liberal media people who are not remotely interested in telling you the truth and are only interested in gaslighting you. And you wonder why there are massive groups of Americans, large portions of the country that have no faith left in our institutions anymore. None. You wonder? You're curious? You're really curious why that's happening. I got to tell you, I do a lot of content, folks. The radio show and Fox, I'm doing upwards of 4+ hours of content a day. I enjoy all of it. I wouldn't if I didn't. I'm here because I want to be. I can't say that enough, not because I have to be. But I've got to tell you, I don't know why I'm getting like emotional about it. I can't even figure out why. I mean this. I am not moralizing. I'm not virtue signaling here. I'm not. I just don't want you to ever think you're wasting your time here. I said from the start, you go back and listen to the shows. They're still there right when this thing hit. A little less than a year ago from this month, when this thing was for the first, about 7-8 months ago, when this coronavirus first broke, I said to you, ladies and gentlemen, this is not time for panic. This is time to take in information. It's an unknown virus. We don't know what the R naught is, the infectious nature of this, the R naught, and we don't know how lethal it is, the lethality rate of this virus. We don't know. We should avoid rash judgments and bold nationwide policies. They consider bold. Bold, not judging them on the character of the policy, but bold given the expansive nature of it. I said we should avoid that until we have the proper information. None of that was done, folks. And when people like me said things like that, we were accused of playing the virus down. Nobody was playing it down. Millions of people died. We were just making decisions that were going to bankrupt people and destroy their lives based on limited information. And the reason we had limited information was not because the information was limited, but because the information was limited to us. We have the emails. They had the information. They were questioning masks. They were questioning the COVID origins. They were questioning gain-of-function research. It's right there. And the reason informed decisions couldn't be made by us in a constitutional republic that's supposed to be free is because experts, government bureaucrats, fake book, ScrewTube, and liberal jerkwads kept the information from us. It's disgusting. It's disgusting what happened. So what did we do so far? Masks, COVID origin, gain of function. All right, we got another one. We have Fauci receiving warning on gain of function in the lab leak theory. Here's another email he got here. This is heavily redacted. Where a guy says, hey, dear Tony, and they go into this whole big thing about possible gain of function lab leak board that the Chinese might not be telling the truth. The warning's right there in front of you. It's from a Dr. Michael Jacobs. You can see it right there. It says, we think there was a possibility, was released from a lab in Wuhan. Right there. Look at the date, February of 2020, ladies and gentlemen. It's right there. This is sent to Fauci's email. These are doctors. They're supposed to be experts communicating with Fauci via his government email, indicating that they have evidence here or potential evidence that it was released from a lab in Wuhan. Why was limited information limited to us? Because people like this limited the information to us. Subject, all caps, Dear Tony, coronavirus. This wasn't like a you want to do yoga email with Mrs. Clinton. It says, subject, Dear Tony, coronavirus.